Breaking overnight, the Ukrainian security service says it has detained a Russian woman in connection to a plot to assassinate President Zelensky. CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh is live in southern Ukraine. Nick, what are you learning about this plot and the detention?
Yeah, look, I mean, little is known, particularly how far advanced this was. But what Ukrainian security services are saying is they've detained a Russian informant who appears to have been trying to collect information about the visit of Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine's president, to Mykolaiv, that key port city in the south, in recent weeks. Now, some of the messages that they've released that they say are between her and the people she was corresponding with suggest perhaps she could take pictures, provide a bit more information about the time and place of this visit. She has said, she's not named, and it's not clear if she's Russian or just a Russian informant. She's said to be a military store worker, someone who worked essentially in an outdoors shop in Charkiv, that's a peninsula right down towards Crimea on the southern coast. So a key reminder here, I think, from the Ukrainian security services that there is constantly a threat against Volodymyr Zelensky's life. We know he takes inordinate precautions in trying to keep himself in Kiev, but still at the same time, too, does go to a lot of frontline destinations over past months to corral troops in those places. And the Ukrainian security services, too, very active in the media over the past week or so, claiming responsibility for the attacks on the cargo ship carrying oil, the assault amphibious ship on the port of Novorossiysk, and indeed to the bridge to Crimea as well. Overnight, though, Victor, we've been hearing of yet more strikes inside of Ukraine. One dead in Kherson from shelling. But also two suggestions from Russian officials that Ukrainian drones have tried to get up towards Moscow as well. This nightly exchange between both sides persisting, certainly, and a sign, I think, of the growing tension and impact on civilian life here in Ukraine as the southern counter-offensive picks up pace. Victor?
Nick Payton-Walsh for us in southern Ukraine. Thank you.
Ukraine's military is now confirming strikes on two key bridges between Crimea and Russian-occupied areas nearby. Ukraine says the two road bridges targeted on Sunday were the main transportation routes for Russia in those areas. But a Russian-appointed official in the Kherson region claims the bridges are used for civilian and not military traffic, and that a rupture to a gas pipeline running along one bridge cut off supplies to 20,000 residents. CNN's Claire Sebastian joins me now in London with the latest. Claire, so Russia obviously trying to imply there that Ukraine isn't striking military targets. What do we know about the strikes on the infrastructure in Crimea? And also, this is part of a spate of attacks that we've been seeing.
Yeah, Ukraine has certainly been getting bolder. They have been sending a message, I think, that Crimea is not off limits. We've seen in recent weeks and months, you know, ammunition depots, all sorts of things being hit. Also, the Black Sea now clearly in play as well. So, look, I think there's messaging, but this is also about hard military strategy, right? Crimea, housing, ammunition depots, military bases, it's always been a key part of Russia's war strategy here. And I think just looking at the map, it's hard to imagine that what this Russian-backed official in Kherson is saying is true, that these were only civilian bridges. These are critical links between the peninsula itself and those Russian-occupied areas just to the north. Now the Russian-installed head of Crimea is saying they're having to divert traffic through this very thin strip of land that actually links the peninsula with mainland Ukraine. So it's clear that there's disruption there, and that Ukraine, I think, with progress slow on the front lines and continuing to be slow, is really undertaking this concerted effort to ease the pressure by hitting behind enemy lines, by disrupting these sort of logistics hubs.
We've also had mysterious reports that the US Navy has encountered more than 10 Russian and Chinese vessels off the coast of Alaska. What more do you know about that?
So the US Navy, the US military sent Navy destroyers and planes to meet these vessels. Not a small number, as you say, 11 of them, according to the two state senators in Alaska. They were apparently staying in international waters, according to a spokesman for the US military, but near the Aleutian Islands, which is very close to Alaska. Now, a Chinese embassy spokesperson in DC did say that this was just regular maritime patrols. The two countries undertake this kind of cooperation. It had nothing to do, he said, with the international situation. But clearly this is being seen by the US as a provocation by China and Russia, especially given that international situation, given the US support for Ukraine and also for Taiwan. And that is why this incident sort of happened with this level of tension. It happened before, where a couple of ships were seen in that area, but were only met by a US Coast Guard vessel. Now, Jake Sullivan, the US National Security Advisor, saying he welcomes that there was a more robust response this time.
And just another symptom of the heightened global tensions that are reaching out and reverberating from the conflict in Ukraine as well. Claire Sebastian, as always, great to talk to you.